you had two characters in WWF and WWE later on that were true to their character, and you had to say that's who they are. And one was Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
You mentioned, having dementia in the head and people being, beaten down. And one of the episodes was one of the featured kind of stories was about Chris Benoit. And they had, Court Sawinski, who did the research on Chris Benoit's brain and confirmed that he had CTE or signs of CTE on his brain scan. Vince McMahon, one of the other quotes that was just like, okay. He thinks that there was no such thing as CTE, and that the damage that Chris Benoit did to his brain, it was that Chris, some people just go nuts one day, and that's what Chris Benoit did. And then someone you're close with, Stone Cold Steve Austin, kind of doubled down on that, saying that he doesn't believe in CTE, that he's not a CTE guy, and it's Steve Austin.
Well, I don't know what I had, but whatever it was, my brain wasn't working functionally. So, and I've been hit on the head. I used to see these guys and they were trying to change the business like ECW and that hardcore style and getting hit with chairs and put through tables and all this. And I'm thinking, what happened to storytelling? This storytelling went out the window 20 some odd years ago. And it's come back lately because it's a lot easier way to do it. And you know where you've been and where you're going. But that stuff really, that hardcore style, I told him, I said, when I used to go in these matches, I said, if you think about, or you're thinking about, or have an inkling about hitting me with a chair, don't. Because I got a baseball bat in my bag. And when we go back and my head is ringing, I'm taking your knee out.
You think you know all the wrestling stories? There's more you haven't heard yet. Join us on Backstage Pass.
Oh, we're not going to do that, but we're going to hit you hard. I said, no, you're not going to hit me, period. I'm not doing it. Now, I would let some guys that I trusted, they could do it. But in ECW, they wanted the hardcore style because they wanted people to believe it. They believed it. Because whoever they hit believed it. And you could hear it going off. Pow. I'm not doing it. So, and I didn't do it. And I still can't remember crap. If you just think you get up every morning and you just thump yourself on the head with your finger, do that about 50 times a day. And that over a period of 2 or 3 years, you're going to have a problem somewhere, I would think. I don't know if that would work or not, but that's my perspective on it.
Well, the final two things I wanted to mention with you was Bruce Pritchard's comments. Like you said,
I'm not paying you that $50 on you. I know you're gonna. Oh, okay. You forgot about it. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot.
Go ahead. About that. Bruce Pritchard comment.
Well, that you said before, you didn't think they focused too much on the Janelle Grant lawsuit. They did talk about it a lot in the final episode 6. And at the end of that episode, 2 days before the Janelle Grant lawsuit came out, they did the interview with Bruce Pritchard at WWE headquarters. And Bruce Pritchard was very adamant that he believed that the entire documentary was a farce and that it was trying to kind of fool people into believing that Vince was close to his on-screen character of Mr. McMahon. And, the lawsuit kind of alludes to that as well, that his character of Mr. McMahon is the person that he really is. What do you think? Because that was a question that was kind of asked to everybody, and a lot of people answered the same way, and that he think that the Mr. McMahon character and Vince McMahon are one and the same, and that Stone Cold said that his Mr. McMahon character is just him turned up to 10. Some people think it's close. Vince doesn't think he's at all like his on-screen character, and that he's playing someone that he's always disliked about billionaires and owners of companies. What is your perspective of the Vince McMahon that to the Mr. McMahon character that has been on TV?
I'm going to say very close. You had two characters in WWF and WWE later on that were true to their character, and you had to say that's who they are. And one was Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know, Stone Cold, when he goes out there and talks, he talks that way driving down the road. And another one like that is Randy Savage. You know, when you would meet Savage, you know, Randy Savage was the same guy at 6 o'clock in the morning as he would be at 12 o'clock at night, because he stayed in that character 24/7. Stone Cold Steve Austin stayed in it 24/7. Now, Vince may not have stayed in that character 24/7, but when he got to that building and they're going to do TV that night, he'd just roll into the Mr. McMahon, and he did it so well. I mean, Vince, you could tell people when they're acting. Vince was not acting. Vince was putting forth what he thought that he was. And he was very, very good at it and very believable. So I think Vince knew what he was doing. But again, by that same reckoning, I think Vince didn't, you know, I've said before, where there's smoke, there's fire. And he's done a lot of things with women and all this other stuff. And, you know, when he went through that phase of buying off all those females, there's no telling how much money he paid them. And I'm thinking, you know, everybody thinks Vince is so smart and he's so savvy and he's all this and that and the other. And I don't take any of that away from him. But the Janelle Grant lawsuit was started because he didn't want to pay her. He paid her $1 million, allegedly. I won't say allegedly because I don't know if he paid her or not. And then he owed her $2 million, and he wouldn't even pick up the phone. He wouldn't answer her nothing, so she just went to see a lawyer. And now we are where we are with this. And I think it's going to cost Vince a lot more money to get out of this than what he envisioned at the start of it.
Yeah. It does come down to him not paying that. And it was confirmed also in that episode 6 that Janelle Grant was the original report by Wall Street Journal that started all the allegations coming out of the hush money that he was supposed to pay her $3 million and him only paying $1 million. And that's the whole reason that she was able to break the NDA and come out about the abuse and the human trafficking that she experienced at that time. So my final question to you about this whole thing.
Well, maybe I'm not through talking. By God.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
My final question about all of this is the same question that was asked in the Vince McMahon documentary. What do you think? What is your perspective, being someone that's worked with him, being someone that's, you know, heard about and saw a bunch of this documentary? What is your opinion of the legacy of Vince McMahon?
Well, he was brutal. He was literally brutal when it came to business. And he will tell you anything. Now, Vince, when he said, I don't play fair, he bought a territory. He bought the Hearts territory. That was Calgary and Edmonton, Canada. And he made a down payment. And after they closed up, he wouldn't pay them. He wouldn't pay them anything. Now, to me, if he'd have done me that way and I'd have closed my business down, I think he'd have been without a kneecap next time he came to Canada. And if you're going to, but it's their fault for not getting it on paper, you know, and they should have known that Vince was like that. But no telling how much money it cost them. But when he said, I don't play fair, he didn't play fair at all. And, you know, I've told stories about the girls before. You know, I would talk to the girls up there because I'd sit around, nothing to do. we were laughing and talking, but sometimes the discussion would get around to Vince. And you could look at them, their whole body language would change. They would sit up, and then they would become very serious. And finally, you remember Summer Rae?
Yeah.
Well, she never said anything bad about him, but she was one of them that I kind of got that vibe from. She's never said anything about it, but I could tell that he had done some bad intentions with those girls. But a lot of people said, "Oh no, he wasn't like that. He couldn't have been. He run a business." Well, you think differently about this when the person involved is your sister or your wife or your daughter. If you put it on a personal level, it changes, because you want your family and your wife and your daughter or sister to be treated with respect. And I don't know if Vince was doing that. So, but anyway, it is what it is. So, and I'm very interested to see how the rest of this story turns out with Janelle Grant. Do you think they'll have a trial over it or no?
I would think that if Vince McMahon, I'm trying my best to avoid a trial, but it seems like Janelle Grant and her lawyer, Ann Callis, is very committed to getting it to trial so Janelle Grant can tell her side of the story. So it's something that we're going to continue to talk about until everything goes down. Right now, the lawsuit is on pause because they have the federal investigation, but we'll see how that develops in the months to come.
Okay, what is that? What is that federal investigation about?
The federal investigation.
What is it about, Brock Lesnar?
It's about everything involving the lawsuit, like how deep this goes, because the lawsuit is not just against Vince McMahon, it's against John Laurinaitis, and it's against WWE as an organization, and they need to find out who knew about the relationship that he was having with Janelle Grant within WWE. And WWE has got rid of a lot of people in the recent months, whether it be Kevin Dunn, John Laurinaitis, but there are still people there that are considered like Vince hires or Vince people. And, Bruce Pritchard being on this documentary and being so adamant in defense of Vince McMahon just 2 days before the lawsuit came out. I would have loved if they got an interview with him after the lawsuit came out, because that would have been interesting. So
you're saying Bruce is highly defensive of Vince even today?
I mean, it was 2 days before the Janelle Grant lawsuit. He was still defending him after all the other allegations that came out. So he was still in defense of Vince McMahon.
Well, all I got to say is this: I wish they would come out with some more big news. Yeah. Because I never had clicks like I had before. When you say something about Vince, he's a click master. He's a click king. You put something up about him, and that's what you got to watch out, because somebody can say something about Vince totally untrue. They don't care. Yeah. But the clicks mount up, and you got some money pouring in. So, you got anything else you want to ask me? No, I'm not loaning you any more money. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Hey, you owe me some money. That's the difference. But yes, we have finished up this one. We want to thank Dutch Mantell for joining me today to talk about the Mr. McMahon Netflix docu-series. This has been a special edition of Smack Talk on Sportskeeda WrestleBinge. Until next time, until we're live back with you on Smack Talk, talking about Friday Night SmackDown. That is Dutch Mantell. I am SP3, and this has been Smack Talk.